Mike, I hope you're having a great afternoon. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, buddy.
Have you already started working on 2019 draft?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's long been in place, so to speak.
I love it. I love it. I love the grind, man. I love the work ethic that you bring, and certainly the NFL guide that's out there and the thing that we'll use as a reference throughout the year. Biggest winner in the NFL draft in 2018 was who?
Man, I like what Denver did. They came out of there with the top defensive player in the draft with Bradley Chubb at a position you can't hardly find anymore, and that's as a pass rusher. To get him, and the Browns passed, which I still don't get. I think the Greeks settled this years ago. You got a chance to pick a really talented big guy and a really talented smaller guy. You go with the big guy. And nothing against Denzel Ward. He was the top cornerback in his draft class, but you had a chance to get bookend defensive ends, and you passed. Fell right into the lap of the Broncos. So now you got Chubb and Von Miller to deal with. Von's still got a lot of football life left in him, and now you got Chubb. I like what they did in the middle rounds, in the early to middle rounds, and getting a Cortland Sutton, who's a big, tall, rangy wideout, and then Deshaun Hamilton, who's a really good slot receiver from Penn State. And then they got a thickly built, quick back from Oregon and Royce Freeman, who can catch the ball real well coming out of the backfield and also runs well between the tackles. He put up some nice numbers out there at Oregon. So I like what they did. Washington's another team that jumps out at me. It's sort of back-to-back years that they have spent a lot of time in the SEC. And, I know Doug Williams a little bit, and I know Doug spends a lot of time down here too. And last year, they went and get Jonathan Allen, Ryan Anderson. This year, Deron Payne, Darius Geis. I thought, throughout the draft, that they did a really good job overall, kind of filling into some of those need areas where it was obvious that they know how tough a division that is. With the defending champs, the Cowboys ain't going anywhere. They're a good football team. Who knows what you're going to get with the Giants, if they can stay healthy or not. But the Redskins, I like what they did. And this might sound crazy, but you know what? Cincinnati, they didn't go and try to pick guys that had issues off the field. They stayed with blue-collar, tough guys who were productive at the collegiate level, like a Sam Hubbard, like a Billy Price from Ohio State. You win with that character-type guy. And that's against the grain for the Bengals. A lot of times they've been picking guys all over the board. But I think from a value selection and where they got it, Minkah Fitzpatrick going to Miami. What a great pick for them. Because I think he's the type of guy that can come in there, be that alpha dog leader for them that they really desperately need on that side of the football and in the secondary and become a playmaker for him. He can fill so many spots there as the nickel, at free safety, and brings you some toughness along with Rashad Jones, who's also a really good safety also for him.
Let me ask you about Calvin Ridley going to Atlanta and playing with Julio Jones. And I know that's a big rival of New Orleans, but just spend a little time looking at Calvin Ridley and what he brings to that organization.
Well, I love the pick for Atlanta and hated it that you got to play him twice a year. So,
sure.
The other NFC South teams, man, you got to be kidding me. We got enough with Julio and Devontae Freeman and Coleman, and now you sling, and Sanu's a pretty solid receiver also. So now you sling us Ridley. And this has become kind of the 4x400-meter relay team that the Falcons have on offense. It's just keep up with us. And I think he fits in there really well. He won't have to worry about double coverage or having coverage rotated to his side of the field as long as Julio's on the other side. Again, as a route runner, as a guy that hits a spot, that's something Matt Ryan sort of preaches a lot about, that he likes that type player, knowing where he is on the field and they brought in a number of other guys that had some ability, but Ryan, they never hit the right spot. If it was a 10-yard route, they would run 12. If it was a 15-yard route, they'd run 19. I mean, you know what you're getting with Ridley, a guy who understands how to get to the mark. He's so quick into and out of a cut and a break, and he's going to have a lot of one-on-one action. And once he makes that catch, the ability to put that in a real high gear very quickly, and then he flies up the field. So brings a lot to the table. And, man, those games in the NFC South this year, if you're watching Atlanta or Carolina or Tampa Bay or New Orleans, and I thought Tampa Bay did a good job too, adding on to it. Now, again, with the Bucks, you got to prove it to me in a real tough conference. But I think Ridley, getting him for that late in round one, that's a steal for the Falcons, despite the fact they really needed probably another defensive tackle guy. I think a lot of people felt maybe Taven Bryan from Florida would be their player, but Ridley falls to you. You got to take him at that point.
Mike, I want to spend a lot of time picking your brain here about a couple of different topics that's going to be a major part of our conversation here today. And one of those, if Mike Detillier was an AD and you were trying to hire the best football coach in the country, not Nick Saban, because we're discussing this from a local perspective because we don't know how much time Nick Saban's going to coach. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 1. I mean, who knows? I mean, Father Time catches up with everybody. What phone call would you make if you were in that position? Who out there catches your eye in college football that you think is an up-and-coming superstar?
Man, listen, my thing is, my first phone call would be to Urban Meyer. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but he would be my first phone call. I mean, I want to see if he had an interest in that spot. Look at his success at Florida and on Ohio State. Why wouldn't you at that point in time? I mean, the obvious name is Dabo because of what he's done at Clemson and his ability to recruit and also develop players there. And he's become, one of these guys that's sort of bigger than life for a lot of high school players that have seen him on TV. That's the effect television has on that particular spot. Those two right off the bat would be where I would go to, because I do think at Alabama to fill Nick's spot, come on, you're not hiring no middle range guy here. Right, that ain't going to work. You better hire somebody who can walk down that aisle and has done it and had great success, because you know what? That's going to be a lot of pressure on whoever follows him. You can't hire an assistant coach to do it. The third guy would probably be the former Alabama assistant. Now, would he leave Georgia to go to Alabama, Kirby Smart? I don't know. But you know what? My thing is, he can only tell me 2 answers, yes or no, real quick. I mean, that's the only answers he can give me. It's either a yes or no. But you can't hire some middle-range coach to come in here. That's not going to work, because he's never been through that type of pressure to win. 9 games, that's unacceptable. 10 games, not acceptable. You're going to want to be in the hunt every year for the national championship. Listen, Nick raised that bar up here at LSU. And Les was able to ride that pretty good for a while. But then, you know what? LSU fans, man, 9 wins, 10 wins, man, that ain't what we want. We want to play in the SEC championship game every year. And the same thing's on Orgeron for that. He wins 9 games this year. Man, that's a bad season. All I'm telling you is it's going to be a big-name coach. And those 3 guys, if it's Urban, if it's Dabo, if it's Kirby, whoever's the AD, those 3 names are going to get called quickly.
Mike, let me go to Dabo here just for a minute, okay? Obviously, he's a national championship winning coach. He's an excellent recruiter. He's an Alabama-born player. He played here. He was a walk-on, and he goes on legacy. But let me ask you from a schematic standpoint, the way that you understand the game, how great is Dabo on the field?
He knows how to hire good assistants and let them do their job. He's a CEO. I think the one thing with him, and I was talking to Coach Bowden about him, and he said, the greatest thing with him is how he grew to be the CEO at Clemson. You have certain areas of expertise, and Dabo being a receiver, the pitch and catch part of the game, how he sort of grew up in this business. That's his expertise. But the one thing is you got to put your ego aside and let your assistants run the show. Now, you do have some say in it, but you let them run it and you hire good people and get them out and recruit. Not everybody does it the same way. Not everybody is cookie cutter, so to speak. One thing he did, and I agree with Coach Bowden on this, is that he was able to take that job. He was never a coordinator before. He was a receivers coach. And it took him a little while to get comfortable in that spot. And then all of a sudden, he's the CEO. He's the guy. Everything filters through me. But he's hired good assistants and kept them. Ryan, look at that staff. He's done a really good job of keeping good assistant coaches on that squad that could have went somewhere else, but he's kept them at Clemson. And he's recruited well to his own strength. He knows what he's looking for in a player. He's got a vision for it and how he's going to use that player. And I'm impressed with that. Not everybody's going to run it like Saban does. Not everybody's going to be what Harbaugh thinks he is at Michigan. Not everybody's going to be sort of what Bob Stoops was at Oklahoma for such a long period of time, or what Coach Miles was at LSU. You have to do it your own way because you know what? Kids know when you're a phony. They know when you're faking it. Listen, they might be kids, but they've had a lot of phoniness in their lives when they're that highly recruited as a player. They want somebody who's real. Dabo brings that out because he's that type of personality. So, for me, schematically, how well you can go on the chalkboard and do this and that, it is important. And his strength is the pitch and catch part of the game. But I think a real strength of his is he knows how to run a team, he knows how to recruit, and he knows how to deviate, you might want to say, the challenges of being a head coach to his assistants and let them run their own little departments. You're the secondary coach, you're in charge of the secondary. You're the linebackers coach, you're in charge of the linebackers. A lot of coaches can't do it, Ryan. They want to be the CEO and want to micromanage everything. I want to coach this position, that position, this position. What does Nick spend all that time with at Alabama? Secondary.
Sure.
That's his ground because he's familiar with that. He understands it. He's coached it for so long. Dabo's with the receivers at Clemson. So you got to know your strengths and weaknesses as a coach. And I think part of knowing what you know is part of what you don't know, is that you've got to hand that baton off to someone else. I think that's what makes Urban who he is and makes Dabo who he is. And you know what? I see a lot of that in Kirby and what he's been able to do at Georgia. That, he sort of lets those offensive coaches, hey, run the show. You guys, this is yours. And, I'll have some say on the defensive side of the football, and he certainly has a hand in it, just like what Saban does at Alabama. But he's a good baton carrier. In essence, if you're on the relay team, he knows how to hand you the baton without a stumble. Some coaches can't do it. They struggle with it because they want to micromanage every piece of information, every coaching deal out there, and you can't. You have to know you're the boss. And if you don't like what they're doing, then you got to replace that guy.
Mike, final question. You and Trent Dilfer were the first ones who spotted Tua Tagovailoa. you told us, and I can even quote Mike Detillier from December, January of 2017, 2017. You said he's going to breathe fire down Jalen Hurts' neck. Mike, I didn't realize there were so many people that told us that back in January. I mean, now everybody is telling us that they told us then. And I don't remember too many people when Mike and Trent Dilfer was out here barking up this tree saying this guy's going to be very, very special in Tuscaloosa. But we got a lot of media people that now are saying that they told us so. I don't remember anybody except Mike Detillier and Trent Dilfer. But I must have missed all these other guys.
Yeah, well, listen. They got a lot of writers of the Constitution. You kind of know how Jefferson felt, because, a lot of guys want to, chime in late with it. And so be it. If that makes them feel better, so what? I got to see him at a couple camps, and it was obvious. He was clear-cut, not just a good passer, but it was how he kind of carried himself on the field. His leadership, his smarts, how he took control and command out on the field. And, sometimes you can sense that. Oh, it's almost like an odor when you've seen enough of it. Some guys got it and some guys don't. And I said this last year at the Manning camp. The two guys who took control of their environment here was Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. Man, that deal is, listen, Baker did it in sort of a quiet manner, along with Darnold. But when they were out there, hey, I'll run this show. You listen to me. And if you don't, you can get an earful from me. And I think Tua, he's got that part in him. And you can see the smooth passing motion, his ability to throw on balance, and the delivery is so nice, smooth over the top. And he needs to fill in the frame. But, he was a 16, 17-year-old kid when I first saw him. So you understood, that was eventually going to happen with him. But I think it was just his command of how he ran things that jumps out. And you don't see that a lot in players today. That just, if you go to a camp and there's 400 quarterbacks or 200 quarterbacks, there's just a couple of three of those guys that when they get up, the other quarterbacks are watching too. I'll never forget Miles Brennan and Lowell Narcisse, who were at LSU. They went to, I think it was the Nike camp. And this is long after I had wrote it about Tua. And I asked Miles, who impressed you there? And, normally, they will go in the LSU. Well, Miles, Lowell looked real good. And, but I asked him, who was the best? He said, Tua. Tua Tagovailoa. He was the guy. Axel Lowell, who's the guy? He said, man, Tua. Well, I think he said he's the Hawaiian guy, Tua. He was the guy. It was funny how they knew it too. They knew it too, that he had some special traits to him as a passer and as a leader on the field. And I think, those young guys, they know who the top competition is. They know who the man is out on the field. And it was interesting because I thought they would both kind of chime in on one another, but wasn't the case.
Mike, do you think
they both voted for Tua? He won the election.
Yeah. Do you think it's a quarterback competition here? I mean, if Tua's healthy, this is his job, right?
It's his. It's his. So, and I understand Jalen's dad and what he's saying, and that, I'm sure he's not just looking. I think he's looking hard. He understands the position that he's in at this point, and he wants to do what's best for his son, like you and I and everybody else would do. We would want to give him the best opportunity and the best shot to see playing time, and he wants to play quarterback. He made that apparent here when he was here last summer for the 3 or 4 days that, who knows what happens in the pros? That was his comment. Who knows? But at the college level, I'm a quarterback. So when you got Tua right there, he knows he's going to have to take this somewhere else. There is no controversy, despite the fact what he's done has really been remarkable in college football to put up those type numbers and to win. But he sees Secretariat, in the paddock too.
Hey, I say it like this. If Dan Patrick puts in an application and tied 1029, I'm going to be looking at the unemployment line.
Yeah. Well, it's true. Listen, all of us have to understand our strengths and weaknesses in life. And there's always, if you think that you're a 20 in blackjack, somebody always has a 21 and beat you.